ॐ गणनान्त्वा गणपतिगं मवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवस्त्रवस्त्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पद आनुशृण्वोति विश्रीदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुं गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम केशवाय नमः, ओम नारायणाय नमः, ओम माधवाय नमः, ओम गोविंदाय नमः, ओम विष्णुवे नमः, मत्सूदनाय नमः, त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, वामनाय नमः, श्रीधराय नमः, ऋषिकेशाय नमः, पद्मनाभाय नमः, दामोदराय नमः, संकर्षणाय नमः, वासुदेवाय नमः, प्रद्युम्नाय नमः, निरुद्धाय नमः, पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, दोक्षाय नमः, नारसिंहाय नमः, अच्युताय नमः, जनार्दनाय नमः, उपेन्द्राय नमः, हरे नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः। ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे ॐ ऐं ह्रीं क्लीं चामुण्डाय विच्चे. There are so many incidents or episodes coming in the Sri Mad Devi Bhagavath Purana, and very interesting the happening in that situation. There was a clash between the sages and kshatriyas, and King Nimi and of Vikshwaku dynasty was highly righteous and sought to perform in the name of Devi Bhagavathi. He wanted to perform the yajna in the name of Bhagavathi. Sage Vasishta, who was the dynasty's Rajaguru, agreed to become the head priest for the sacrifice of Devi Yajna. At the arrived time, when all the preparations were through, the sage Vasishta informed that Indra had called him too for a sacrifice yajna and sent word that the King Nimi's yajna be rescheduled. King Nimi went ahead with this function as per schedule. The King Nimi did not like to postpone the Bhagavati Yajna. He requested another priest to come and conducted the Bhagavati Yajna and went ahead with the function as per schedule. Vasishtha Maharshi returned from Indraloka and became very angry on Nimi because he never waited for Vasishtha to return from Indraloka, that his mortal body would fall off. Vasishtha became angry and he given a verdict to kill the Nimi. The king was also not happy. In return, King Nimi also cursed Vasishtha Maharshi. But since Nimi's yajna was not complete at that time, he performed it as videha, or without the body, as Lord Yama was pleased with the sacrifice yajna and gave him the option of another nice birth or doing the yajna in videha form. King chose the videha option. Vasishtha had to pray to his father Brahma, who arranged that he be reborn as Mitra Varuna. So, because Nimi also gave a curse to Vasishtha, and Vasishtha requested his father Brahma, who arranged that he be born as a Maitra Varuna. In the past, Apsara Urvashi was infatuated by Mitra Varuna, and two issues were born. One was Agasti, and who became an ascetic, and the other was Ikshwaku, who became a king. Mitra Varuna's jiva body was still intact even before Brahma created original Vasishtha. The jiva of the present Vasishtha, now dropped as a return curse of King Nimi, entered the duplicate body of Maitra Varuna without any loss of original Vasishtha's wisdom and radiance. This all looks very strange in the modern world, what happened in the ancient time. Now, another incident of King Yayati versus Shukracharya. In another incident, sage Shukracharya cursed King Yayati. The sage's daughter Devayani married the king but objected to live with his another wife Sharmishta. But still the king did not comply. The father of Devayani, Shukracharya, cursed that Yayati would become old and impotent. As the king entreated for forgiveness, the sage's curse was diluted that if any of his sons would take the position of Yayati's old form instead, then he could regain his youth. The youngest son of Sarmishta, Puru, who bore his father's curse, and after Yayati, he became a youthful king, the ancestor of Pandavas. That Yayati is the ancestor of Pandavas and Kauravas. Vedavyasa Maharshi affirmed that being an upright king, Yayati was also in a position to reverse the curse of the Danamaguru, but restrained from doing so and quietly conceded to assume the old age, as after all he did not commit a great sin in asking his another wife Sharmishta to bed. Equally wonderful was the preparedness of Puru to take on curse of the sage and sacrificed his own youth for thousands of years. So these are the strange things what we learned in Devi Purana. There was a conflicts between Kshatriyas and Brahmanas assumed a snowball effect gradually. The Ayayas and Bhargavas had open disagreements to this extent that even pregnant women of Bhargavas were not spared of violence. Over a period of time, greed, jealousy, and power proved to be the factors causing quarrels which finally climaxed into the era of Ayaya king Kartavirya of thousand hands and an ardent devotee of Avaduti Dattatreya as also Devi Bhagavathi. As the violence of Kartavirya on Bhargavas became acute, the latter assembled and prayed Devi Girija intensely in an Amarana Diksha, devotion till death. The Devi appeared and assured that a boy would be born from her thighs and would save them. But the Hayayas sought to blind the Brahmana lady who secured the boy named Aurava, born of thighs. By the grace of Bhagavathi, Aurava was so radiant that all the Hayayas were all blinded. When the entire Hayaya clan prayed to the Brahmana lady to restore their eyesight, Aurava forgive them, and their eyesight was restored. Hayayas got a lesson as they all knew that Aurava was a gift of Devi herself, and they reverted back to their original position of reverence to Bhargavas in particular and Brahmanas in general. Parashurama, in the Lord Vishnu's incarnation, killed all the violent Kshatriyas in 21 battles, and also ended the mighty king Kartavirya also was killed by Parashurama. The origin of Hayayas was interesting ones. Lord Surya's son Revanta rode on celestial horse Uchchaishrava and called on Mahavishnu. Lakshmi recognized the co-born horse at the time of churning the ocean and was lost in thoughts. Despite Vishnu's noting her indifference, Vishnu became angry and cursed her to become a mare as she was much captivated with the horse. Lakshmi Devi prayed to Mahadeva and Girija, who sent the latter's emissary to Vishnu with the request that he too be born as a horse. Lakshmi Devi confirmed to Devi Girija that her husband had great reverence for Mahadeva as Vishnu was praying to Mahadeva himself. Hence Vishnu obliged took the form of a horse. The animal forms of Vishnu and Lakshmi gave birth to a male human child who was left in the forest but was ordained to be picked up by King Yayati's son Turvasu, Harivarma, who was meditating for a son for 100 years. But meanwhile, Vidyadhara, named Champaka, Sorry for the disturbance in the computer. So both Lakshmi and Vishnu became horses, and the animal forms of Vishnu and Lakshmi gave birth to a male human child who was left in the forest but was ordained to be picked up by King Ayati's son Turvasu. In other words, he is called Harivarma, meditating for a son for 100 years. But meanwhile, Vidyadhara named Champaka and his spouse Madhu Madanashala were flying around, found a child of profound sparkle, and desired to own him. But Indra warned them that the child who gave birth to Hari and Lakshmi was actually meant for Ayati's son Harivarma, who was performing severe tapasya for a male child, who was subsequently named as Ekavira, the one only warrior. As Ekavira grew into an ideal youth with considerable learning and valor, King Turvasu and coronated Ekavira and retired to forest. Ekavira was popular as a worthy king. As he was roaming once on the banks of the Ganges, he found a pretty girl crying. When cajoled, she, Yashovati, said she was the companion of Princess Ekavali, the daughter of King Rabya and Queen Rukmareka. The couple performed as Ekavali emerged from the Homakunda fire pit. When the princess and Yashovati were bathing in a pond in their territory, demon Kalaketu appeared, killed King Rabya's soldiers, and made amorous advances to Ekavali. She entreated the Danava king from Patala that her father desired her to be wedded to King Ekavira of higher kingdom, and thus requested her to leave her. But the Danava king heeded little and forcibly took Ekavali away to Patala. On hearing about the incident, Ekavira revealed his identity and wondered how to reach Patala to fight